Hello and welcome to another Games That Weren't Special. What you are looking at currently is the long lost Monster Muncher on the Commodore VIC-20, a game that has been missing for over 40 years. However, evidence has only just surfaced that the game was commercially released, having been sold in extremely limited numbers. Today is the first time that it has been made available to run within an emulator and have a video created of it running. So why is it so special? Well, the main reason is that the game was written by none other than Matthew Smith of Styx, Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy fame. We only learnt about this title thanks to an interview with Paul Drury at Nottingham Screenplay Festival back in February 2005. Not long after having his very first game published, Delta Tower 1 on a TRS-80, Matthew had visited a businessman with a friend who was looking to put adverts in magazines for about 4 games in total. The adverts were apparently actually published before the games were even written, so Matthew was roped into producing Monster Muncher on the VIC-20 to help out, which was a blatant Pac-Man clone. According to Matthew, the game was actually written in BASIC and the result was just 3 hours worth of work to get it all done. He described that his friend had ripped off a Defender game, which he suggested at the time was Alligator's Defender, with the graphics slightly changed and the credits fully removed. This seems to suggest that his friend had done Rocket Command for them on the ZX Spectrum, which matches the description perfectly, but was found to be instead a rip-off of Silversoft's Orbiter from 1982. The company in question behind the titles was Spectrum Games, which was a company started by David Ward before he had started up Ocean Software with John Woods. The label itself was very short-lived, as the name was found to be a bit restrictive for a company releasing games on platforms like the VIC-20 and later the Commodore 64. So Ocean Software was therefore born, and some of the titles would see re-release on the Ocean label. Monster Muncher wasn't one of those titles though. So as you can see, the game is quite impressive for only a few hours worth of work, but the flaws do show unfortunately. Although it plays a reasonable game of Pac-Man, there are some game breaking issues throughout. Parts where your character gets repeated, having the dots reset every time you die, and also an over-generous ghost pool where you can keep eating ghosts who have respawned and keep racking up your points. However, the most game-breaking bug of all is the fact that when you eat all of the dots on the level, nothing happens. There is no progression onto level 2, and the game just allows you to continue moving around an empty maze with the ghost following you. We've marked the spot this happens in the video description if you want to jump and have a look. It seems there was no proper playtesting at all for the title before it was mastered. Flaws aside, it's still fantastic to see another piece of Matthew Smith's game development history preserved, and perhaps someday the game could be fixed up to be fully playable. Check it out for yourself via the Games That Weren't website, where the link can be found in the description. Now as for how the game was recovered, this was pretty incredible. Just back in August 2024, the game had come up for auction for the very first time on eBay, and this confirmed that the game did in fact see a commercial release, and this was something that we were not originally sure about. Even Matthew himself felt that the game had never been released and that the company had closed its doors before it had got out. A friend of Games That Weren't offered to bid on the game, but missed out sadly, and there was also no response from the purchaser about obtaining a copy for the site. As a result, we feared that the game could be lost forever due to its scarcity. On the 7th of September, I ended up visiting the Retro Computer Museum in Leicester with Sean Connolly, who many of you will know from his wonderful Commodore 64 music. If you haven't been to RCM before, then I highly recommend visiting. Andy Spencer and his team have produced something truly wonderful, and the place continues to grow by the year. The collection upstairs is just absolutely amazing. So up in their vast and amazing library upstairs, they had a set of shelves with VIC-20 titles on, about 3 cassettes deep in one part. So whilst I was standing there, I was kind of chatting to some others at the event, and I just kind of started wondering to myself how it would be amazing if Monster Muncher happened to be sitting there tucked away behind those cassettes. So I kind of began to have a sift through just out of interest, just to see if there's anything obscure there, and just one layer of cassettes behind, the words Monster Muncher for any VIC-20 smacked me in the face. I'm not sure if I've got some sort of bizarre sixth sense for unreleased games or lost games, but I was pretty gobsmacked, and I'd only just told the story just minutes before I'd started looking amongst the cassettes. So as you can imagine, I was pretty buzzing, and just I'm still quite stunned today actually that it was there after all that, and especially so soon after the auction. So it's thanks to Andy Spencer that we were allowed to borrow the tape to ensure that it was properly preserved, and so here it is. And a real bonus from it all was that Andy revealed that he was a huge Matthew Smith fan and had a shrine to all his games in the museum. He never knew about Monster Muncher, and he was really chuffed to know that he had a copy in his collection all along of this incredibly rare game. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and a huge thank you to Sean Conley and Andy Spencer for helping see this title preserved. We'll be back in another Games That Weren't video very soon with some more findings, so take care and speak to you soon.